Welcome to the study session where we are breaking down the BCBA 6th edition task list. Today, we are cracking open one of the most famous and arguably most important parts of behavior science, Task B.5, which is all about defining and providing examples of schedules of reinforcement.
If you've ever wondered why you keep checking your phone for a text message that isn't there, or why people will sit at a slot machine for 12 hours straight, today is the day you find out the why. We are still in Domain V, Concepts and Principles, which represents 14% of your exam. That means about 24 questions are coming from this domain, and you can bet a good chunk of those will be testing your ability to tell an FI from a VR.
Exactly. A schedule of reinforcement is essentially the rule that describes which instances of a behavior will be reinforced. Let's start with the most basic one, continuous reinforcement, often just called CRF.
This is the participation trophy of reinforcement. Under a CRF schedule, the behavior is reinforced every single time it occurs. According to the sources, this is best used during the initial stages of learning because it helps create a strong association between the behavior and the consequence.
Right. Think about teaching a child a brand new skill. The source gives the example that every time a child does her chores, she receives a cookie. If you want her to learn that chores are equal to cookies, you have to be consistent. But, as we all know, you can't give a kid a cookie for every single chore for the rest of her life. Her dentist would kill you, and the cookie would eventually lose its power.
Exactly. That's why we move to partial reinforcement, also known as intermittent reinforcement. This is where things get interesting and where the exam loves to live. There are 4 basic partial schedules you need to master: fixed ratio, variable ratio, fixed interval, and variable interval.
Let's break those down. First, the ratio schedules, which are based on the number of responses. Fixed ratio, or FR, means you reinforce every nth response. The source uses a lab example, delivering a food pellet to a rat after it presses a bar exactly 5 times. In the real world, this is like a punch card at a coffee shop: buy 10 coffees, get the 11th free. It's predictable.
Then there's the variable ratio, or VR. This reinforces roughly every nth response. It's an average. The source example is delivering pellets after 1 bar press, then again after 4 bar presses.
This is the slot machine schedule. You know a win is coming, but you have no idea if it's on the next pull or 10 pulls from now. Because of that uncertainty, VR schedules produce a very high and steady rate of responding. If you see a question about a behavior that is incredibly hard to stop or extinguish, think variable ratio.
Now let's look at the interval schedules, which are based on time. Fixed interval, or FI, means you reinforce the first response after a set amount of time has elapsed. For example, reinforcing a rat with a pellet for the first bar press after a 30-second interval.
This one has a very specific look on a graph, the FI scallop. People and rats in the labs tend to slow down right after reinforcement and then pick up the pace right before the time is up. It's like checking your mail. You don't check it at 8 a.m. if you know the mailman doesn't come until 2 p.m. But around 1:55 p.m., you're looking out the window every 30 seconds.
Finally, we have the variable interval, or 6. This reinforces roughly after n amount of time. The sources describe this as reinforcing the first response after a 1-minute interval, and then a second pellet for the first response following a 5-minute interval.
This is like checking your phone for a notification. The text could come in 2 minutes or 20 minutes. Because you don't know when the gate will open, you engage in a steady, moderate rate of checking. It's not as fast as a ratio schedule, but it's very consistent.
So, for the 175 scored questions, here is your cheat sheet. If the question is about how many times, it's ratio. If it's about how much time, it's interval. If the requirement never changes, it's fixed. If it's an average or unpredictable, it's variable.
And remember why we do this clinically. We start with CRF to teach the skill, but we use these partial schedules to make the behavior last in the real world, what we call maintenance. If you keep a kid on a CRF schedule forever, the behavior will stop the second you run out of cookies. That's a thinning of the schedule, and it's vital for generality.
It's basically the difference between a student who only works when you're standing over them with a sticker and a student who works because they've learned that effort eventually pays off.
If you want to see if you can tell a 6-3 from an FR10 in a tricky scenario, head over to www.bcbamockexam.com for more practice.
Keep those responses coming, folks. We'll see you in the next session where we talk about the darker side of consequences, punishment.
See ya.
Bye.